to revenge with Lyra.
Oh, sorry. Accidentally dropped your laptop in the pool. Her voice was dripping with fake sweetness, every syllable a dagger. My $2,000 laptop hissed and sank under chlorinated water while she twirled her hair like it was nothing more than a spilled drink. And the reason? Because I said no. Because I wouldn't hand over $29,000 for her ridiculous business idea that even a child could see was doomed to fail. My sister smiled, smug. And then my mother, sitting pretty on the patio chair, sipping her coffee, added salt to the wound. It was just an accident, she said. As if accidents giggled while they watched your life dissolve into bubbles. I didn't argue. Not a word. Because silence can be sharper than glass, and I was done bleeding for people who thrived on my pain. My name is Rachel Monroe. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Because what happens when betrayal becomes a blueprint for revenge? That night, while the house slept under the hum of cicadas, I made calls. Quiet ones. Calculated ones. I changed a few passwords, updated some settings, locked doors she didn't even know existed. The truth is, revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it only needs fingers, codes, and timing. At 6:15 a.m., when the sun was barely a whisper on the horizon, she woke to something she never saw coming. Her screams split the morning air like sirens. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Because this wasn't about a laptop. It wasn't about $29,000. It was about teaching her and everyone else that some accidents can't be swept under the rug. This was only the beginning. Her scream rattled the house awake. At 6:15 a.m., my sister barreled into the kitchen barefoot, hair wild, clutching her phone like it had betrayed her. My accounts are gone, she shrieked, shoving the screen in front of my mother. All my money. It's locked, Rachel. Mom looked up from her mug, frowning, but calm in that way only mothers can be when they refuse to see the monster in their golden child. I'm sure it's a mistake, honey. Banks glitch sometimes. But I knew better. Because it wasn't a glitch. It was me. I stir my coffee, slow and steady, pretending not to notice the storm unraveling 3 feet away. Maybe, I said softly, you should have been more careful with your passwords. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp, venomous. She knew. She didn't have proof, but she knew. This is because of last night, isn't it? She spat. Because of your stupid laptop? Get over it, Rachel. I said I was sorry.
Sorry.
That word dangled between us like a noose. Sorry doesn't bring back years of work. Sorry doesn't replace shattered trust. Sorry doesn't sound like giggles echoing over a drowned hard drive. Maybe you should have been more careful with your business plans, I replied, taking another sip. Her face flushed crimson, her jaw tightening. You're pathetic. You'll regret this. But the truth? I didn't regret anything. Not the midnight calls, not the password resets, not the locked accounts. Because I wasn't just after revenge. I was after balance. For years, I'd carried the weight of her selfishness, the loans she never paid back, the lies she told, the chaos she left behind while Mom cleaned up her mess with excuses. And when I finally said no, she drowned my future in a pool and laughed.
No.
Balance was overdue. Mom reached for her hand, placating. We'll figure it out, sweetheart. But my sister yanked her arm away, still glaring at me. This isn't over, she hissed, storming down the hall, slamming her bedroom door so hard the walls shook. I didn't flinch, because I already knew. This was just the first domino. By the time she realized how deep my revenge ran, she wouldn't just lose her money. She'd lose something far more precious. And she'd never see it coming. The slam of her door echoed long after she disappeared down the hall. I sat there in the kitchen, coffee still warm in my hands, listening to the house hum with tension. Mom finally sighed, her voice weary. Rachel, you shouldn't provoke her. She's under a lot of stress right now. I laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that didn't belong in that kitchen. Stress? You mean the stress of destroying my laptop because I wouldn't hand her $29,000? Or the stress of coasting through life while you call her every mistake an accident? Mom's lips pressed tight. She didn't argue, but she didn't defend me either. She never did. That silence was its own betrayal. I carried my mug to the sink, setting it down with care. You don't get it, Mom, I said quietly. This isn't stress. This is entitlement. And it's time she finally pays. Upstairs, I heard drawers slamming, frantic pacing, the rustle of papers. She was discovering more missing pieces. Because money wasn't the only thing I touched. Her emails, her client lists, her carefully rehearsed pitch decks.
Gone. Locked.
Redirected. The business idea she wanted $29,000 for? I'd seen it. It wasn't innovative, it wasn't clever, it was stolen. Word for word, from a site she thought no one else had read. And now, the receipts lived safely in my inbox. When her footsteps thundered down the stairs, I was ready. She burst into the living room, face flushed, phone in hand. Rachel, give it back, she shouted, voice raw.
You hacked me.
I know you did. I met her fury with calm. Prove it. Her jaw clenched so tight, I thought she might crack a tooth. This is war, she whispered, and you don't stand a chance. But that was the beauty of it. Because unlike her, I didn't fight with tantrums. I fought with precision. She stormed out of the room, muttering threats under her breath, while Mom sat frozen on the couch, staring at me like I was a stranger. Rachel, she said softly, what are you doing? I turned toward her, a small smile tugging at my lips. Cleaning up a mess you never could. And in that moment I realized my sister wasn't the only one who would pay. The house was no longer a home. It was a battlefield. Every glance became a weapon. Every word a landmine. By noon, my sister's footsteps stormed through every hallway. She called her bank twice, slammed her phone down, cursed under her breath when she thought Mom wasn't listening. I didn't lift a finger to help. Finally, she cornered me in the kitchen, eyes blazing. What do you want, Rachel? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry, okay? But give me my accounts back. Her voice cracked on the last word. Desperation always did peel the mask away. I set my book down, looking her square in the eye. You want your accounts? Then you admit to Mom what you did. Her lips parted, fury trembling through every inch of her face. You're insane, she hissed. But it wasn't insanity. It was justice. Because for once, the lies weren't enough to save her. Mom appeared in the doorway, worry written across her face. Girls, please, can't we just move past this? I turned to her, my chest burning. Past this? Mom, she ruined my work. She laughed while she drowned years of my life in that pool. And you called it an accident. Mom's gaze dropped, shame flickering but never landing. Families forgive, she whispered. No, I shot back. Families protect. And you never protected me. The silence cracked something between us. For the first time, I saw it. The favoritism, the excuses, the way every storm my sister caused was brushed off as rain. My sister seized the moment, clutching Mom's arm.
See?
She's crazy. She's always been jealous of me. Jealous. That word stung more than I expected. Not because it was true, but because it was the weapon she always used. And Mom always believed it. But this time, I wasn't the weak one in the room. I smiled, slow and deliberate. Jealous? You'll find out soon enough I don't need to envy you. Not when everything you value is already slipping through your fingers. Her eyes narrowed. What did you do? I stood, brushing past her, letting my shoulder catch hers. You'll see. Because by 5 p.m., when her investors checked their inboxes, they'd find every stolen word she ever pitched, exposed, time-stamped, undeniable. And my sister's empire would crumble before it was ever built. By 5 p.m., the first domino fell. I was in my room when the shouting started. My sister's voice pierced the walls, high-pitched, frantic, shaking with a rage she couldn't control. No, that's not true. I didn't steal anything. The sound of her bedroom door slamming followed, then the thud of footsteps pacing. A phone call, loud, desperate, echoed down the hall. Curious, I drifted closer, standing just beyond the cracked door. Her voice was trembling now, stripped bare. Please, you don't understand. That deck was mine, I swear it. I didn't copy anyone. Silence. Then a muffled sob. Another slam. I smiled, because I knew exactly what they had said. The emails I sent, screenshots, timestamps, links, were undeniable. Every original idea she pitched had been lifted, word for word. And now, her so-called investors had proof she was nothing but a fraud. Dinner that night was silent. Mom pushed food around her plate, eyes darting between us, trying to patch holes in a sinking ship. My sister wouldn't even look at me. Her fork scraped hard against the porcelain as she stabbed at her meal like it had betrayed her too. Finally, she snapped. You think this is funny, Rachel? Her voice cracked with venom. You've ruined me. I set my fork down carefully, meeting her gaze.
No, I said.
You ruined yourself when you destroyed my laptop. Actions have consequences. Her chair screeched as she shoved it back. You're jealous. That's all this is. You can't stand that I'm better than you. Better. The word hung heavy in the air, bitter and hollow. Mom's voice broke in, trembling.
Please stop this.
Both of you. We're family. But my sister cut her off, standing tall despite the tears streaking her face.
No.
Rachel made this war. And if she thinks she's won, she's wrong. I leaned back, calm as ice. You lost before it even started. Her hands clenched at her sides, shaking. You'll regret this, she whispered. I'll make sure of it. The words were meant to scare me. But instead, they lit a fire. Because if she wanted war, she had no idea how prepared I was. And when her phone buzzed again, another rejection email, another investor pulling out, she screamed so loud the glass on the table rattled. That was the sound of her empire collapsing. And I wasn't done yet. The house didn't sleep that night. Doors slammed. Phone calls whispered through walls. My sister's voice, sharp and frantic, bounced down the hallway in waves. She was scrambling, trying to salvage what was already dust. But humiliation doesn't wash out easy. It clings. And by morning, her name was on group chats and forums she didn't even know existed. Screenshots travel fast when betrayal is involved. At breakfast, she marched into the kitchen with fire in her eyes. You think you're clever, Rachel? She snapped. You think you can ruin me and just sit there eating toast like nothing happened? I didn't flinch. Worked so far. Her jaw tightened. You're pathetic. All brains, no backbone. You wouldn't survive a day without me. I set my mug down slow, deliberate. Funny, I said. That's exactly what you're about to find out. She frowned, confusion flickering. Because while she thought this was about money and business, she had noticed the other strings I'd already pulled. Credit cards flagged. Her online subscriptions cut. Her phone plan canceled at 2 a.m. just as she was begging an investor not to walk away. I didn't just clip her wings. I plucked every feather. She tried a new tactic, tears. Her voice cracked, raw and pitiful. Mom, tell her to stop. She's destroying me. Mom looked at me, eyes wide, helpless. Rachel, maybe this has gone too far. Too far. The words sank like lead. Where was that warning when my laptop sank to the bottom of a pool? Where was that warning when years of my work dissolved while they both laughed it off? I turned to Mom, calm as glass. No, this is balance. For once, she's living the life she built instead of the one you excused. My sister's tears dried in an instant, rage flashing back across her face. You think this is balance? You're wrong. You've made an enemy you can't beat. Her voice was venom, but her hands trembled as her phone buzzed again. Another rejection. Another door slamming shut. She looked at me then, and something in her eyes shifted. Not anger, not grief.
Fear.
Because she finally understood. I wasn't just dismantling her life. I was dismantling the pedestal she'd lived on all these years. And she was falling fast. By evening, the storm hit full force. My sister's phone was practically welded to her hand, red-eyed, pacing, begging anyone who would listen to believe her version of the truth. But people don't invest in the desperate. And desperation was dripping off her like sweat. She burst into my room without knocking, face pale and wild. "You don't get it, Rachel," she shouted. "If I go down, you go with me. I'll tell everyone you hacked me, that you're unstable, that you're dangerous." Her voice cracked, but her fury burned. She wanted to scare me. She wanted me to fold. Instead, I leaned back against my desk, calm. "Go ahead.
Tell them.
And when they ask for proof, what will you show them? Because I've got all the receipts, every stolen word, every plagiarized pitch. You'll only bury yourself deeper." Her face drained of color. For the first time, she had no comeback. "You ruined everything," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Do you know what it's like to wake up and have nothing left?"
Yes, I did.
I remembered the hiss of my laptop sinking, the laughter that followed, the hollow pit in my stomach as years of work vanished. I knew exactly what it felt like. "That's the point," I said softly. Her hands shook at her sides. She looked like a cornered animal, and for a second I wondered if she might actually strike me. But instead, she spun and stormed down the hall, slamming her door so hard the frame rattled. Mom appeared minutes later, eyes heavy with something between sorrow and disappointment. "Rachel," she whispered, "this isn't who you are. Revenge doesn't heal." I met her gaze, steady.
No, Mom.
Revenge doesn't heal, but it does remind people that pain has a price. She looked away, unable to argue, because deep down she knew the pedestal she built for my sister was already crumbling. And maybe, for the first time, she was seeing the truth. That night, as the house grew quiet, I heard a sound that was new. Not shouting, not laughter, not excuses. Crying. My sister's sobs leaking through thin walls, breaking in the silence she could no longer drown out. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. But the game wasn't finished. Because tomorrow morning, she'd wake up to the final move. The one that would take everything she had left. The sun rose quiet, pale light spilling across the kitchen floor. I sat at the table, coffee warm in my hands, waiting. At 6:15 a.m., her scream shattered the silence, again. But this time, it wasn't about locked accounts or angry investors. This was deeper. Final. She stumbled into the kitchen, phone clutched in her trembling hand, tears streaking her face. They froze everything," she sobbed. "My credit cards, my accounts, my reputation gone. I can't even log in to apply for new jobs. Rachel, I'm finished." Her voice broke into raw, desperate gasps. And for once, she didn't look like the golden child. She didn't look like the sister Mom always protected. She looked small, powerless.
Human.
Mom hovered behind her, eyes wide, wringing her hands. "Rachel, please. Help her. You can fix this." I met Mom's gaze, steady as stone. "No," I said quietly. "This isn't mine to fix. It's hers to face." My sister collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, the arrogance was gone. No smug smile. No defiance. Just silence, broken by sobs. And I realized then, revenge isn't loud. It doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes it's quiet. It's the weight of truth pressing down until the lies finally crack. I leaned forward, my voice calm, final. "You called my loss an accident. You laughed when my work drowned. But what you lost, that was no accident. That was justice." She lifted her head, eyes red, lips trembling. "You hate me," she whispered. I shook my head.
No.
"I just stopped letting you win." The house fell silent again. No shouting. No excuses. No golden pedestal left to stand on. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt free. Later that morning, I walked past her room. The door was open. Her desk was bare. The piles of plans and projects were gone, shredded and scattered in the trash. She wasn't on the phone anymore. She wasn't plotting her next move. She was just sitting there, still, broken, facing the one thing she had always